Miami won. And I remember watching an early Lakers-Blazers game. But the 70s, now I'm starting to be like, 8, 9, 10 years old. And it was a great time. I loved the NBA. What you're currently watching, as I watch this weekend, is you're watching the 70s NBA with way better marketing, way better revenue. The NBA is doing very, very well. But you have one really great transformational player per team surrounded by excellent players. I'll give you an example. In the 70s, they were called the Washington Bullets. They had Elvin Hayes, and then they had excellent players around him. Phil Chenier, Kevin Greavy, Bobby Dandridge, Wes Unseld. I remember them well, their uniforms. The Sonics had Gus Williams, who was their star from USC in his prime. But they had Jack Sikma and Lonnie Shelton and John Johnson and DJ, Dennis Johnson. And the Knicks had Walt Frazier was their guy, Earl Monroe and Dave DeBusschere. The Warriors had Rick Barry was their star. Then Jeff Mullen, Clifford Ray, the coach Al Attles. I can go through all. Portland had Dave Twardzik and Jeff Petrie and Maurice Lucas, but they had Bill Walton. They all had a Hall of Famer and then really nice complimentary pieces. Sixers, by the way, had Caldwell Jones and Bobby Jones and George McGinnis, but they had Dr. J. Dr. J was the first player that, the afro, the style, the hands, the swooping that we all kind of fell in love with in my age group. That's what we're watching. All of these teams have one great player. Tatum's going to be a Hall of Famer. Luka's going to be a Hall of Famer. Some would vote him in now if he retired. Giannis going to be a Hall of Famer. Steph's a Hall of Famer. And then there's no great teams left, though. Like the 70s, we don't talk about 70s teams. We don't talk about 70s NBA teams. There's no great teams. These are not great teams. Now, Golden State has the most offensive talent left. Celtics have the most defensive talent left. Miami's got the best depth and bench left. And Dallas has the greatest scorer left. All have something special. All four could win it. Absolutely. I think I like the Celtics in 6 over Miami. No great conviction. I think I like Golden State's matchup against Dallas in 6. I think health could be a huge factor. These teams are not good enough to overcome. None of them are good enough to overcome a big injury. They're just not. And I was thinking about it this weekend, flying back. I was reading Jeff Pearlman's book, 3-Ring Circus, on Kobe, Shaq, and Phil Jackson. It's fantastic. The Lakers won 3 straight titles, and if Karl Malone was healthy, I think they beat Detroit for 4. And it was nothing but chaos. Kobe hated Shaq. Shaq hated Kobe. Phil Jackson was in Jerry West. It was a mess. It didn't matter. We watched the documentary, Joy and I did, Michael Jordan and Jerry Krause, and Rodman didn't show up, and Scottie Pippen is jealous, and Michael's a jerk, and he's punching Steve Kerr. It didn't matter. They won 6 titles. And we watched Clay and Steph and KD and Draymond, and Draymond and KD didn't get along. They're fighting. It didn't matter. They just won. Great teams can overcome injuries and vanity and scuffles and fighting and turmoil and chaos, and the GM hates the coach, and the coach hates the GM, and the GM hates the star, and the star, everybody's jealous. That's not what we have here. All 4 of these teams have absolute clear ceilings. But the 70s NBA was really, really fun. And everybody could win every year. There were like 5, 6 teams every year. And all of these can win, but they've all got ceilings. Golden State feels a little old, like a little creaky. Clay's not the same. Steph always feels like he's close to getting hurt. Draymond's still remarkable, but he's past his prime. So's Andrew Wiggins, who's been a revelation. Dallas, after Luka. Boston, after Tatum. They don't play well. They don't win. And I'm not even sure Miami has a closer. I like Bam and I like Jimmy Butler, and they just kind of outlast everybody. The NBA is much healthier than it was in the 70s. It is rolling in international talent. It is rolling in revenue. The players are big personalities. Yeah, Simmons, Kyrie, James Harden, eye rolls. You pay guys $30 million, that's what you get. But it's got much better marketing, and it is the 70s NBA. But people badmouth the 70s NBA. I grew up with it. It was fun. Yeah, the Knicks were good early 70s, and here came the Lakers, and then Dr. J's coming in, and then the Sonics, and the Blazers, and the Warriors, and why can I name all the players? Why do I remember all the coaches? I can go through starting lineups for all of them. Why? Because it stuck. It mattered. It was fun. Players were fighting and yelling, and it was like you had just enough pasta for 6 people, and there were 7 kids. Everybody was fighting because everybody was an inch away. It's not like the Warriors dynasty. It's not like the Showtime Lakers, Kareem and Magic, the Bulls. It was like, maybe we can beat them. Probably we can't. Anybody can win here. I don't have great conviction. I do think Boston defensively is going to make it really hard for Miami. Really hard for Miami to get any consistency or fluidity offensively. And I think actually Golden State matches up with Luka okay. They can throw a little Draymond at him for 10, 12 minutes a half. They can throw some Andrew Wiggins at him for a little while. I think they'll make it a little difficult for Luka. Little. Heavy on the little. But I think it'll be fun. I like it. I like villains. I like superpowers. But this is fun too. Joy with the news.
No.
Turn on the news. Who will not be winning any titles? I know it's painful. I like Chris Paul. It's not Charles Barkley didn't win a title. Dan Marino didn't win a title. Chris Paul's not going to win a title. The basketball gods have rendered a decision. So what do the Suns do? Bring it back. Really? I know, 64 wins. Got to the playoffs. Terrible for a decade. It feels good to win those regular season games. But the great thing about losing to great teams and losing to great players. And the Mavericks are not a great team, but Luka's a great player. There is an advantage to this. Great creates clarity. You watch American Idol in its prime, and you'd see the Underwood or like one of the great singers. Like every year they'd have a great singer. And it just created clarity. You're like, oh, she's great. He's really not that great. He's terrible. It creates clarity. Great creates clarity. If you're in Silicon Valley, Apple, oh, our stuff's good. It's not the iPhone good. Luka showed you the truth. Devin Booker is a 2. A good 2, but a 2. Mikal Bridges, quite a ceiling. DeAndre Ayton, not much use when you trail late and need threes. And Chris Paul's 37. He's old. Phoenix needs to take a huge swing. And they should thank Luka for that. Because he is so great, so capable of getting his own shot every time down the floor, so capable of elevating others, so inspired, so unintimidated by anything. He showed you the way. He showed you that Booker's a 2. If I'm Phoenix, I let DeAndre Ayton walk. I get another elite score. That's where I spend my money. Hopefully Booker is a great 2 for years to come in the Valley of the Sun. But I'd probably limit Chris Paul's minutes. And by the way, I love Chris Paul. But there are certain industries in America where people do not age fast. Accountants. I mean, you could have an accountant for 60 years. Radio hosts. People do it for a long time. Attorneys, tax attorneys. I've been doing it. My firm's been since the 60s. And then there's professions where people age really fast, like overnight. Pro sports. Peyton Manning, MVP, to benched for Brock Osweiler. James Harden, overnight. The hell is that? Chris Paul, 37, last 4 games of this series. These are pro athletes. They're the world's best athletes in the NBA. Your weaknesses, they happen fast. That tax attorney, have another donut for breakfast. You'll never be able to tell. Chris Paul couldn't stay in front of anybody. And it's time. It's time to find the next Chris Paul. He's not going anywhere. But Devin Booker was not a serious MVP candidate despite being the best player on the best team. But I think Luka, as infuriating and defeating and discouraging as it is today, Luka did you a huge favor. Luka showed you the truth. 33 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists a game, shooting nearly 50%. Devin Booker scored 23 at 43% and struggled, never elevated others, struggled to consistently get a good shot. Yes, I know today in Phoenix it's a bad day, but sometimes, my wife says this all the time, you can be a great example for your kids or a horrible warning. Your kids can learn from both. You can learn as a pro basketball player or executive or coach or a team from a debilitating loss or a great win. They're both teaching tools. Luka showed you the truth. Booker's a 2. Hell of a 2, good 2. Love to have him for the next 10 years. Chris Paul's limited. He's 37. He got old fast. So did Harden in the East, like overnight. Came out of the bed, woke up. You're like, oh, he's a step slow. Can't get past anybody, and Chris can't stay in front of anybody. Chris Paul's going to be back. Use his guidance, his mettle, his toughness, his intelligence, his moxie. But take a big swing, because Dallas isn't getting worse. Luka's just now moving into his prime. Oh, he's going to be no fun to play for a decade. This isn't the best Luka. He came into the season out of shape. This is like LeBron, year 4 in Cleveland. Was it 4 or 5? He got to this championship with the Spurs, and the Spurs like vanquished him in 4 games. Everybody's like, yeah, LeBron's not clutch. 12 years later, he made his 8th straight final. That's what you're looking at. Luka is the truth. Chris Paul after the loss.
You know, you play long enough and you don't win. Every time you lose, they're gonna say it was your best chance. But I think for me, we'll be right back next year. Tell you that much. I'm not retiring tomorrow. Thank God. You know, hopefully I'm healthy, come back, but keep playing.
Good coach. Great city.